Hello again, friends. So we're back. This is the last one of the videos that I'm going to do like this week anyway, just because VRChat did respond to all of the, we'll call it backlash, we'll call it immense Twitter trending backlash. So I figured I'd do a little video going over their response here to all of the backlash on the EAC update, and also go over some of the things I learned, because it turns out I didn't know anything about this stuff yesterday, and today is today. That's how days work. Now, from my understanding, and again, my understanding is that of a toddler, some of the major pain points people had with mods being outright banned abruptly in VRChat, it centered around accessibility tools, which it turns out VRChat had not implemented super well natively, which is why the VRChat modding community had such a huge accessibility section where people were developing new ways for people to be able to access it who physically weren't able to before using VRChat's current standards. Now, it seems in VRChat's response they've done my favorite thing. They've decided to say that they'll just retroactively fix all the things we complained about. Now that's business. It is a start. I'll be optimistic and say if they fix it, then it's fixed, so that helps. But this doesn't really address all the people's concerns, and I'll get into that as we get into this. Let's go. Addressing your feedback. They put that in bolds. There's no fancy images on this. It's just text, so we know we're straight to business now. Yesterday afternoon, we announced that we would be reprioritizing, reorganizing, and changing our internal development roadmap to focus on the feedback you've given us. Which is hilarious, because they're saying that yesterday they announced that they were reorganizing based on our feedback, and this is their address to our feedback on their reorganizing based on our feedback. Keep that in mind. I bring that up because what I'm really saying there in that long convoluted sentence is that they didn't listen to the feedback initially at all. As we promised, we're sharing a small roadmap of what the next few weeks are going to look like and when you can expect more updates from us. That's them saying we're going to really rush to add all the updates that you're upset we removed because they were mods that were not officially in the game because you need them and we didn't know that. Something like that. I don't know. Again, this is my IT translation. Over the last 72 hours, that's 3 days, for those of us who can't translate hours to days, we've been gathering up all your feedback. In addition to the information we already had on hand, we've been talking to VRChat communities and community leaders. Okay, so they're talking to everybody. They said we've taken this feedback and organized it with a special priority placed on accessibility. So yeah, this is them saying that they are going to address that main concern, which I am very happy about because the accessibility honestly is the biggest issue. But it wasn't the only problem people had. And at this point, it seems kind of like they're saying that they're just going to retroactively fix the things that upset people and not ever justify the original justification that they used. Because remember, let's remember, all the way back to 2 days ago, the good old days, when we were young, spry, full of hope and youth. They said that they took away all mods because they would outright eliminate the issue of harassment. And they still have not told us that even after they add all these new accessibility updates they talk about here, how keeping mods bans still will solve the harassment issue. I haven't seen anything at all in this about harassment. So, that being said, these are all very amazing updates that are, in my opinion, long overdue. And they've got visual adjustments, so they're adjusting the UI. You're going to be able to adjust the horizons. So if you are, immobile or not able to, totally sit up or sit back, you can view it in the way that you want. These are all awesome. Stuff that should have already been added. So they go over all the features. Yes, that's awesome. Particle limiter. Now this is the other main concern that people had. Many people point out to me and to VRChat that a lot of the world crashers are really just people with like crazy particles and shader effects and high poly models. And yeah, VRChat didn't really have a response for that until right now where they put this in. Because it turns out a majority of the world crashing wasn't happening from modded clients in the first place. Again, it was from totally legitimate shaders and particles that people were adding in and abusing that didn't get resolved by removing mods at all. So, VRChat retroactively adds this little note here saying the particle limiter actually was already implemented into VRChat. So, it feels like VRChat is gaslighting me. Am I crazy? Because a lot of people pointed this out, and now here they're like, well, the particle limiter is already implemented, guys. But it's a beta feature. You just didn't get that. we're adding an option to turn it on or off into our UI so you don't have to restart to change the setting. So they're basically saying that it was a setting in there that nobody knew how to access or knew they could access, but now they've added it so we can access it, so we stop complaining about them crashing our servers, which they claim they solved by taking away mods, which they didn't solve by taking away mods because now they have to add this in to solve it, and they still haven't told us why mods are still banned anyway, since this is what's really going to solve that. Am I crazy? But also, I think I make sense. We're investigating the best way to implement local voice fall-off adjustment. This is a feature where users can adjust how fast other people's voices fall off with distance. It's a cool feature. I didn't know that was something people complained about, but that's cool too. And then they close by saying these are not all of the changes and features in this near-term roadmap. They have a mid-term roadmap, a long-term roadmap, I assume, as well. These are the ones we've identified as being both high priority and close to shipping. When we are able to freeze some resources back from development on these rapid iterations, we move to release main menu 2.0. This is a whole team effort. We're all in it together. What's my final takeaway here? Pretty simple. VRChat is clearly trying to do right and solve some problems, and I hope they do. I really hope they do. But I also hope that all of this hoopla, because that's what it is, it's hoopla, I hope that it has led people to realize that there are other options, and that if you want to have a totally open source platform, you have to keep your mind open, and you can't put all your eggs in one basket or apples in the basket. Whatever you put in a basket, you get it. I'm saying this because at the end of the day, I went into VRChat yesterday and it was crashing more than it usually does, for me personally, anecdotally. And then I went into Chill Out VR, even with this huge influx of people coming in, and it didn't crash for me. And I went into Neos, and it didn't crash for me. So my point is even if and when they solve all these problems retroactively after they broke them all for people, is it really worth coming back to if there are more stable platforms? And if those other platforms end up not being stable, then so be it. But I hope the penultimate result of all this is that we're all a little bit more open about the open source metaverse platform that we're trying to build together. And I hope that all of the major platforms see this as a sign that people want things to be open, and let's do that. At the end of the day, I want to see VRChat and all these platforms succeed, but I also want to see them succeed because they're making the right choices and not because they're retroactively just responding to issues that are being brought up. You know what I mean? And I do think this is a step in the right direction for VRChat, and I hope they continue to listen to the community and respond, because I really do think that's the right thing and that they are taking a step in the right direction. And the sad thing is that at the end of the day, all the people who did build all those awesome mods and put all that work in, their mods are still banned, and VRChat is just going to sort of retroactively fix these things one at a time as people raise them in enough of a huff on Twitter or wherever. I'm optimistic about the future. I do think everybody's going to learn a lot from this sort of group experience.